there is a new training protocol that just outperformed Emil's viral no hangs by almost double. And the crazy thing is, he is part of the team that just published the results. In one of Emil's latest interviews, he and Dr. TVARI talk about a study they were performing. They studied the effects of 4 different training methods in order to finally get to a conclusion. What is the best training protocol for finger strength? The research led to some pretty incredible results, so I knew I had to try it for myself. But is it really that simple? In this video, we're going to take a deep dive into the research, my personal experience these 30 days, and of course, my results. First, who am I and why am I doing this? My name is Marcos and I've been climbing for almost 8 years. Ever since I moved here to Japan and started working at B-Pump, I've mainly focused on technique without doing any training. But as I've been climbing harder and harder grades, I've been hitting a wall on how well I can hold small crimps. A while back, I did a 30-day training video. In that video, I mainly focused on doing max hangs with some pretty surprising results. In 3 months, I have a climbing trip planned, and I've realized that finger strength is now a priority. So that gives me just enough time to focus on improving for the trip. On day 1, my test results were pretty close to what I did last time. It was a little bit down from my previous result of 33 kilos, but after the New Year's and everything, I was maybe just a little bit tired. Emil's original no-hang protocol was to hang 2 times per day with at least 6 hours in between sessions. It's a fairly simple 10-minute routine and every hang should feel very low intensity, feeling between a 2 and a 3 in the RPE scale. In the new study, they tested 4 control groups. Group 1 was just climbing. Group 2 was doing no hangs. Group 3 was doing max hangs, and Group 4 was doing both. Group 1 had no observable improvements on finger strength. The no hang group had a 2.5% increase. The max hang group had a 3.2% increase, and even though it seems like there's a difference, it seems that Dr. TVARI says this is negligible. So essentially, no hangs and max hangs lead to the same results. Pretty shocking. But there was a 4th group that was doing both, and the results were surprising, a 5.8% increase. It's almost as if you add the 2 results of the no hangs and the max hangs, and that just gave the result. Dr. Barr provides an explanation saying that since they were different things, the results were additive. So the easy conclusion is that it's best to do both. Over the years, I've heard a lot of comments about this no hang protocol. I've never done it myself, and there was some good ones and some bad ones. So I decided that if I was really going to commit 30 days of my life to this, I wanted to maximize my chances for success. The usual complaints people had about the protocol was that it sucks to do it 2 times a day, and the other one is that some people were actually getting injured. So I thought about how I could solve this to not bump into these problems. Technically speaking, you could do this protocol 3 times a day. Having that in mind, I think doing it 2 times a day is probably overkill. I'll base this logic on the 80-20 rule and get most of the results without having to suffer doing this 2 times a day. Looking at my own climbing routine, I'll still get this double stimulus 4 to 5 times a week. So I do think it's a big win. The second one was a little bit harder. Why do some people get injured and others don't? I think people are probably pulling more than they think, and that's what leads to the injury. There was a few solutions online, which was hanging on the fingerboard and putting your feet on a scale and measuring that you're pulling less than your full body weight, or strapping onto a pulley system, but I think it's just a little too bothersome. Luckily, I have a pickup block, and I know that if I put the same amount of weight every single day and it's low, I should be fine. So this is my setup. A few weights, a loading pin, my porta block, and that's it. At the beginning of my training, I was not using the loading pin to hold the 5 kilograms, but after a week, I noticed that the weights weren't perfectly balanced. I had a little bit of wrist pain from climbing a boulder at the end of the year, so my wrist was hurting a little bit more than normal, and I think this wasn't helping. So I changed to using the loading pin, and now it's much better. The good thing is that since it's always the same weight, I just leave it under my desk and I have it handy every morning. I would just set a timer and do it. Every single morning, even though I was cold, it was literally just lifting 5 kilograms, so it was super light. After 2 weeks, I just added 1 kilogram, but it felt exactly the same, to be honest. In the back of my mind, I was always thinking, is this really going to make my crimps feel better? It's only like 10% my body weight, but I just kept on going. Now, the max hangs is where I was really focusing on. I was pushing myself harder and focusing on engaging. I also took a few pieces of advice that you guys gave me in my previous video, and I think my form got a little bit better. One thing you'll notice is that unlike the previous training video, this time I'm not using the unlevel edge. I still love it, but I decided to keep that at the gym and have my porta board in my house. That way I get to train on the 20 mils for a while. There was a few key moments over the course of this month that I actually noticed a difference. There was 2 crimpy boulders that when I climbed them the first time, they felt okay, but not great. And over the course of the month, I would try to climb them in my warm-up, and I know I just got better at them, but the crimps started feeling actually nice. This is weird. It's been years since I felt like this with crimps, and I don't want to commit to it, but I think I like crimps again. The second thing was on week 3, when a customer asked me how to do a move, and without thinking too much about it, I just went and pulled off 2 decently small crimps, completely cold, and it felt just fine. I still don't know what the day 30 results are going to be like, but I think this is a good sign. If you've seen my latest Road to V10 video, I won't spoil it if you haven't, but I started to climb some pretty nasty crimpy boulders, and I will just say I improved. It's day 30, and before I show the results, I want to share what problems I had, what I would change, and who I would recommend this to. As an Argentinian, some days I find myself in a park with my girlfriend drinking mate. And when the mate hits, I suddenly have an urge to train. But thanks to fictitious climbing and the porta board, I get a chance to do that anywhere. It's super comfortable, lightweight, and durable. And if you want to try this protocol by yourself, I would recommend giving the porta board a try. Remember to use the code CRISPYCRIMPS10 for 10% off your porta board. And thank you, as always, to Fictitious Climbing for sponsoring this video. To be honest, having more problems would make this video more interesting, but I didn't really have many. Of course, it was boring having to do this the first thing I did every single day, but since I didn't have to do this 2 times a day, it wasn't really that bad. It was just a normal day for me, normal training, and the only difference was that the first 10 minutes of my life was hanging. Since I did it as the first thing in my day and I always had it handy, always prepared, it really didn't mean much. But since I'm doing it on a pickup board, I always had a free hand, and I would just have my breakfast, drink some tea, watch some YouTube videos while I was doing it. It's not that hard. I think it was a pretty good call to just do it 1 time a day because you do it as the first thing, you're free after it, you don't have to think about training, it's just normal life. I know there's gonna be someone in the comments saying, you didn't really do the protocol, you didn't do it 2 times per day. I kinda get that, but I do think I got like 90% of the results by doing this. And if I would have done exactly like the protocol states, I would have done it 3 times a day. And also I would have given up on the second day when my friend and I just went out for dinner after a session. On max hang days, I would focus 100% exactly like I did in the previous video. And it was hard getting hyped after a long day, but I already knew that gave me a ton of results last time. So I just trusted the process and did the reps. One of the big advantages of doing it with a pickup block instead of a hang board is that you can consistently have the same weight. It doesn't depend on how you feel, you don't need any skill. To be honest, with the hang board, I feel the only way to actually do it the right way would be a pulley method, and most people don't have that. For long-term training, I think there's only 3 ways to fail. 1 is getting injured, 2 is getting bored and changing the plan, 3 is just giving up. So by doing these changes, I think I kind of solved all 3, at least for me. If you have a hang board and a pickup block, just leave the pickup block set for the Abrahamssons, and then you can use the hang board for your max hang. It is a little bit tedious having to use the pickup block for the max hangs because you have to carry a lot more weight, but it still works. Regardless of the results, I think this was a pretty cool experience. I'm pretty happy so far, and I would recommend this to anyone with a few caveats. If you are a beginner, just stick to the no hangs, do it with a pickup block, and do it with very low weight. You'll start feeling improvements, and I think they're mostly mental. It's just you getting used to an edge and feeling more confident about it. And 2, don't be afraid to adapt this routine to your life. I didn't do this 2 times a day, and because of that, I think it worked. And now off to the results of day 30. Okay, so this is 30 kilos. Which is what I did on day 1. And yeah, let's give it a try. I feel my fingers are still kind of cold, but I can pull somehow. I don't know. Okay, seems pretty solid. Okay, 33. This is my max from even last time. Okay, that is 100% max 45 kilos. That's crazy. I will be continuing this training up until my trip, so expect a 100-day follow-up. Remember to use the code CRISPYCRIMPS10 for 10% off your porta board.